Hey listeners, before we get started today, I want to give a quick shout out and word to our sponsor, our very first sponsor, Rapido Solutions Group. Danny Frisco and Roberto Icaza, two longtime friends of mine, guys I've known for 10 plus years, the CEO and COO respectively and co-founders of Rapido Solutions Group. These guys know what they're doing. I'm excited to be partnered with them to give you a little glimpse into their business. Rapido connects logistics and supply chain organizations in North America with the best nearshore talent to scale efficiently, operate on par with US-based teams, and deliver superior customer service. These guys work with businesses from all sides of the industry, 3PLs, carriers, logistics, software companies, whatever it may be. They'll build out a team and support whatever roles you need, whether it's customer, carrier sales support, back office, or tech services. These guys know logistics, they know people. It's what sets them apart in this industry. They're driven by an inside knowledge of how to recruit, hire, and train within the industry, and a passion to build better solutions for success. In the current market conditions where everyone is trying to be more efficient, do more with less, nearshoring is the latest and greatest tactic that companies are deploying to do so, and Rapido is a tremendous solution for you. So check them out at gorapido.com. And thank you again for being a sponsor to our show, a great partner. We look forward to working with you. And to our listeners, that's it. Let's get the show on the road. Welcome back to another episode of the Freight Pod. We've got some breaking news here today. I'm joined by CEO of Trucker Tools, Kary Jablonski, a returning guest, one of our first returning guests. She was an incredible guest the first time around, even better the second time around, I'm sure, because we've got big news to announce. Trucker Tools has been acquired by DAT, the leading freight marketplace and rate analytics platform in the industry. This is big news. Welcome to the show, Kary. How you doing?
Thanks so much for having me on. I'm doing great. Today's a really, really exciting day for the team, for me, for our customers. So doing great.
How proud of you? How proud of your team and yourself are you?
I am extremely proud. This is certainly the highlight of my professional career so far. Looking forward to many more, down the line, but as of now, I couldn't be more thrilled. We can go into details about what I'm so excited about, but I think this outcome is just phenomenal for everyone involved. And I'm really excited about the future.
All right. So for those that, anyone in the industry knows both of these organizations, but just in case we have some novice listeners, give me just a quick, 60-second idea of who Trucker Tools is and who DAT is, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So on the Trucker Tool side, we actually started out as a mobile app for small fleets, owner operators, drivers back in 2009, and have evolved a ton over the last 15 years up until this moment now, which is the beginning of our next chapter. Primarily, we are a visibility load tracking solution for freight brokers and carriers. We collect data from carriers, from their ELDs, from the mobile app, through our texting solution to provide real-time updates on where they are, and then pass those along to brokers to eliminate check calls and prevent fraud, and then furthermore go on to their shippers to help brokers really smash their shipper scorecards. We also have a number of carrier sourcing solutions that we've built out over the last couple of years as well. And DAT, I think, needs no introduction in this industry, and you explained it up front. They are the single largest load marketplace, freight marketplace for over-the-road transportation in North America. They also have a large rate intelligence platform, DAT IQ, and we're really excited to be joining forces to bring best-in-class visibility to bear within the platform that freight brokers are working in every single day.
And how did this acquisition come to be? I mean, take me back to the origin of when Trucker Tools decided to go to market, or was this something where DAT approached Trucker Tools and said, "Hey, we want to talk"?
Yeah, so this was an inbound driven event. We've actually got a lot of interest from the market over, I'd say, the last 2 years as we've really built out the category leader in load tracking. And over the last couple of months, I've gotten to know the DAT team through this process, and it became totally clear that they were the best home for this business, that we had a lot of cultural alignment in the way I've thought about running my team and the way that Jeff Clements, who's the DAT CEO, runs his team, and what they're doing there. And it just such incredible overlap of who we're serving, brokers, carriers, and shippers, that it made complete sense to join forces and come together.
And when they reached out, did you think we should run a process at this point and see who else is interested? Or was it more, let's get to know these folks and see if it makes sense for us to partner, and we'll come up with a price that makes sense, and if they're willing to pay it, let's make it happen?
Yeah, we talked to a couple of parties in the space, and I can't share more details on some of those things behind the scenes, but we're really, really happy with where it ended up.
Well, talk to me about what made DAT the right fit for Trucker Tools.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I think it is like that customer overlap. So DAT is the broker marketplace. It's, I go into a freight brokerage and I'm looking at screens, and 80% of them are probably on DAT at any given time. It's pretty wild. And as I thought about the future of our business, we're a load tracking business, visibility business with a really strong carrier network. I thought what made sense was for us to tuck into a larger platform that already supported a lot of the core broker workflow and carrier workflow out there, so that we could be an additional kind of arrow in the quiver, so to speak, for a freight broker to use to automate processes. Because there's one thing to like automate processes kind of in a vacuum and take care of something. There's real magic, and when you're able to take something like, you book a load and then a track automatically starts. That's where you really start to get kind of compounded savings from automation and see the real benefit of it. So I think DAT absolutely makes sense, because we're bringing together our carrier networks to have the largest trusted carrier network in the country or in North America. And they are already deep in the business of automation and saving brokers time, sourcing capacity. We are bringing a ton of that and an additional capability that they hadn't had previously, which was tracking and visibility.
So I want to make this statement because I think a lot of shippers will probably watch this. And I think there's a misnomer about the way that brokers utilize DAT, or at least the way that brokers should utilize DAT. And there are many shippers that I've heard say, we don't want our providers using load boards. And I understand there's nuance to that I think needs to be understood. I think that no broker should solely utilize load boards as their sourcing capacity strategy. However, every broker, or 99% of brokerages, do use DAT because it's a useful tool to source capacity. What you do once that capacity has been brought into your network is completely up to you. How you utilize it, if you utilize it, the vetting you do thereafter, that's on the broker. But I think as a broker, it's my job to get my freight in front of every carrier out there and use whatever tools are available, as many tools as possible, to ensure that I have the best chance of finding the right carrier for the right load. I think that every broker wants to or should focus on relationships first and foremost, and trying to book the same carriers over and over. But there are new carriers that show up all the time who are potentially very good and high quality, and they might be sitting on DAT as their first avenue for how they're looking for loads. I don't think it's a bad thing for someone to be sourcing capacity this way whatsoever. I think it's more about how do you vet the capacity that comes into your network, and DAT is a great tool to do so. And I think that shippers should keep that in mind as they consider that, or consider how they kind of engage with their potential carriers.
Yeah, and I'd actually even push back a little bit on the notion that you need to do vetting outside of DAT, just given something else I should add is that as part of this acquisition, I am joining the DAT team. My entire team is coming with the business, and I'm actually taking on an expanded role, not just running Trucker Tools, but running the broker business. So happy to talk more about that. So I've been able to start to see kind of what we're cooking up now as a larger team. And so much of the roadmap is around fraud protection. Obviously, tracking is a big part of that. We think of tracking as just a core table stake when it comes to maintaining a really safe, secure carrier network. But DAT and the product team there is driving a ton of innovation when it comes to carrier trust and safety, or trust and safety on the platform. Last week, actually, we being DAT now, launched a biometric authentication that makes DAT accounts unphishable. We're also in the process of launching DAT's carrier management suite. Some of that was announced at DATCon earlier this year. So there's actually a lot of really interesting product that is getting worked out right now to come to market very soon that I think is going to make DAT an absolute leader, not just in spot marketplace and that place where you come to find, like you said, all of those inbound eyeballs, but actually to work with really trusted and secure carriers. So I'm really excited about that because I think it is the natural next evolution of the load board.
It does sound like this is going to take the load board as it is today and advance it into a kind of new realm, so to speak, or new kind of identity. Can you talk a little bit, like, how do these tools marry up now? Will Trucker Tools still exist as its own tool? What will the connection be between the two platforms? Like will there be an opportunity to actually book a load through DAT that will connect into Trucker Tools to be tracked? Like how does that work?
Yeah. So we have a ton of exciting ideas, as you can imagine. First and foremost, you've been through M&A, you know what it's like to bring two companies together. The priority is on making sure the team and the customers coming over from the Trucker Tools business are in a good spot. And everyone is, continuing to get the same sort of level of service that they're used to. We're still driving really strong product innovation. So to answer your question, your first question first, Trucker Tools, we are keeping the brand. DAT was actually really excited about the brand, which is another thing I take a lot of pride in.
Congrats.
Prasad, thank you. Prasad and Murali, our founders, built an incredible brand that I think they were brilliant by really building the love from the small carrier base, because that really is ultimately what makes this industry go around from day one. And we've been able to build off that brand equity for the last 15 years. So Trucker Tools, we're still flying the red flag among the DAT blue. And we're still operating business as usual. So really nothing is changing per se for customers of Trucker Tools right now. Of course, there are benefits to scale here, where we're now able to take advantage of being part of this larger organization that has these really deep customer relationships. And that is the first point of integration here, is just helping all of those brokers, like you said, that are using DAT understand that we are the number one tracking solution in the market, and really lean into DAT's deep customer relationships to build out and grow the tracking business. Because over time, as we build those interesting points of integration, those are going to be real value adds for brokers who are taking advantage of the DAT broader suite of existing solutions and the Trucker Tool visibility platform. We've got telematics integrations. We've got all of our proactive exception management tracking capabilities. We've got our fraud toolkit. Over time, there's going to be a real ability to take advantage of not just what's existing on the DAT side and on the Trucker Tool side, but to come together. But the specifics we're of course already moving out on and have a lot of ideas that we're exploring. But point one is, let's just introduce our tracking solution to the DAT broker base. Yep.
So as someone who's gotten to know you decently over the last kind of year and a half and has interviewed you in the past, I'm excited to see you kind of get into the DAT world. I think it's great that you're staying on the business, continuing to own or manage the Trucker Tools product. Talk to me a little bit about this new role within DAT. What is it again, and what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. It was really important to me that I continued with the business into this next chapter, because there's so much opportunity for us, and I'm competitive and I want to win. And I think we've got serious traction right now, and this is only going to accelerate that. So my role is expanding. I'm going to be the VP and General Manager of Trucker Tools and Broker Growth, which is quite a mouthful. Title. But essentially what that means is that you think about all the products that touch brokers. DAT is kind of oriented around three customer personas: broker, carrier, and shipper. I'm going to be overseeing that whole broker business. So of course, there's the core freight match platform, DAT1, DAT IQ, used by see, I still need to get some of the product nomenclature down. So shame on me, but today's my first day as an employee, I guess. But we're adding trucker tools into that suite. And then really, again, like I mentioned, there's a lot of new product at DAT that we're excited about bringing to bear in the market. So that portfolio is just going to expand over time to make sure that we're delivering the most value to brokers we can.
And when you think about like what do you think is what is your message to brokers as you're now kind of the face of DAT brokerage, which DAT has kind of historically not had a very public persona at the C level, and I think that you're going to be a perfect fit for this, frankly. But what is your kind of message to the brokers out there for what they should expect and what you kind of want to bring to them in the future?
Yeah. So I think a couple thoughts on that. First of all, this is day one as an employee, so I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of DAT, but there's a lot of people who are, more capable than I probably today to speak to it. But I think this is an exciting moment, and I think it represents two things for brokers that they can continue to see a lot of out of DAT. The first is what's underpinned with Trucker Tools and DAT, which is a radical customer obsession and building products that solve customer problems. When I started at Trucker Tools a couple of years ago, we actually didn't even have a product team. We were really a founder-led company, but a really core part of the business over the last couple of years is building out our product team. So a shout out to them, Just, Jarrett, Ethan, and Jonah, for identifying what are the massive problems that brokers are thinking through every single day and working through, and how do we build solutions to make their lives easier. I think DAT takes a pretty similar approach to solving customer problems, and I'm excited to keep doing that. That is really like the core message, is we're going to keep building product that helps you solve problems. And then, I forgot the second one. I had some other point I wanted to share out with brokers. Yes. I guess I'm already sounding like a broken record on here, but something I'm also really proud of with Trucker Tools is that we have delivered a ton of new product over the last 2 years. This has not just been kind of a let's run the business and sell and see what works. We have built a ton. And last year I can think of 5, 6, 7 like real meaty features or even full products that we built. We built our fraud toolkit, our temperature tracking integrations, our carrier sourcing tool, our text to track tool. Like there's a lot of real innovation that's been coming off the conveyor belt, if you will. And that's certainly the plan at DAT. We are, already category leaders and market leaders here. And the plan is just to kind of pour gasoline on that fire. The team at DAT is awesome. I've gone to meet product engineering leadership, customer leadership, marketing sales leadership over the last couple of weeks. And like, you can probably hear it. I'm just so energized about the opportunity here to actually build. If you want to impact the freight industry, DAT is the place to be, kind of full stop. It's hard to think of a place where you can have more influence and to hopefully make a change and make a difference for customers. So building out really value add problem solving product is what I'm most excited about and what I want brokers to take away from this.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one thing to talk about the load board and, the pros and cons of it, so to speak, but undoubtedly nearly every, if not every broker is using the rate intelligence. It is second to none in the industry today, and has been, as shippers think about creating new ways of benchmarking pricing or, moving away from kind of the age-old annual bid process to do something that's a little bit more fluid, it is often DAT that is looked at as the gold standard for what pricing should be. And I just think having that, that's what gets the hooks in on all of the brokers, and it's something that they all need. So once you have that, it's a matter of like, what can you do with it? And I think that DAT is making a very smart move buying a company like yours, because all it does is extend the service offerings, but also extend the level of trust I think that the organization can have with its customers, because you have a deeper touch into the carrier itself, which is kind of to an extent an answer to the rampant fraud problem that we're dealing with across the industry at whole. So as people concern themselves with a load board, one potential solution to that is how do we get more entrenched in the carrier network itself? And this is a way to do that.
Yeah, that's was a huge part of the deal coming together. Was the Trucker Tools carrier network is second to none. And we've spent a ton of the last 3 years. I want to give a shout out to Jessica Schnelly, who runs our ELD program here. Our telematics integrations have just, they've literally been exponential over the last 3 years. So we are just so in touch with carriers where they are, and not just into single individual trucks, but entire fleets. Having that, just like you said, being able to understand after the load is booked, what's actually going on, is a huge value add for brokers. And also, it's when I started in this job 3 years ago, I was like, people are really still making check calls. That is crazy. So I think it's been pretty remarkable to see the compliance growth when it comes to digital tracking, like we're doing over the last 3 years. And I think carriers absolutely have bought in on the value prop of, I do not want Andrew the broker calling me every 2 hours if I can just do this digitally.
Why me?
Respect, of course. I just a random name. I just picked,
Sure.
common broker names. Yeah.
So, I'm curious, before this happened, in the last month, there's been a few new entrants to the carrier procurement space. Convoy, or I guess Flexport with their Convoy platform, which is a completely new kind of way or tool for brokers to utilize. Uber with their tool Broker Access, which, I have my own thoughts on, but we're not going to get into that today. One of the thoughts I had as both of those companies came to the fold was DAT kind of almost looks like it could fall behind in this, in just in terms of how this is a step further from what the traditional freight marketplace load matching looks like, where typically a broker would just go on and see the capacity there and then call it if they want to, or email it if they want to. But now DAT comes in with this deal and I guess furthers their own, status in the race, whatever, to stay ahead. Certainly is ahead in terms of the size they have by far. But I'm just curious, give me your thoughts on how the industry is kind of shifting with respect to some of this, and what the potential is, if you have any thoughts on how carrier procurement for brokers could continue to evolve as deals like this happen, or new solutions like the Convoy Uber stuff come into the fold.
Yeah. I appreciate you seeing the value in the deal. I think a lot, what you just shared is a lot of what is so exciting about this, and how DAT continues to really push itself forward. There's a tool that we launched, or a product that we launched. I mentioned all the products we've been building back in, we launched it in April at TIA, called Carrier Sourcing. And this product still exists. Again, everything at Trucker Tools is continuing to be out there, and we're going to figure out how do we take advantage of the value of bringing these two companies together. But it's using a lot of carrier intelligence that we're collecting, from carriers through our mobile app, as they submit offers on loads on our load marketplace, so on and so forth, to identify high quality carriers that are good fits for lanes. And not just based on, these carriers run these lanes, but these carriers run these lanes and they are a high quality, high service level carrier. How do we know that? Because we track the trucks and we actually are a big part of their scorecard. So I really see that. You mentioned kind of DAT having this behemoth of such valuable rate intelligence and data. So I think pulling together all of these pieces and really moving further upstream in procurement and identifying not just, there's a truck available, but this is a good fit, high signal carrier with high service levels that is the appropriate, fit for this load is kind of where I think all of this technology is going, and just moving further and further up in the procurement cycle, as opposed to at the end having to make double checks on things and say, okay, was this it? So that's where I see this whole space going.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree there. I just think the more data you have at your fingertips, the more you can leverage to create a solution that, I guess, solves a lot of the problems that brokers have. The fraud is such a focal point right now, and if you can find a way to get basically into the truck with the ELD and allow that to be part of the solution that DAT is offering, I just think you're making hay at that point.
Yeah, and so we, like I mentioned too, we released a lot of fraud product. I think we released it in October, but we've got more coming where we're proactively verifying too when there's been a truck assigned to a load. Okay, is there a VoIP in play here? Is this actually hitting an offshore data center? There's a ton of early signal that we're picking up, and we're thinking about how do we move that earlier into the procurement cycle as well to identify ahead of time this is a bad actor. And I'll add to, again, day one at DAT, but they've removed a ton of carriers from the network. Again, I mentioned kind of making accounts unfishable with biometric authentication. Of course, fraud is going to remain a major issue. And just based on the data I'm seeing, I think brokers are becoming a lot more effective at managing fraud, and bad actors are continuing to get vetted out of the system. And this sort of tech, like I'm mentioning, like our fraud toolkit with our tracking product, that's just going to become it's a table stake that everyone is going to be eager to use, because if you're not, you're exposing yourself. It's like you don't have basically not having some sort of basic insurance at some point.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the challenge really though is like, as we brokers and you tech platforms get smarter and better at fighting fraud, the fraudsters get access to technology that makes them better at being freaking fraudsters. So it will be a never ending battle. But I think that, again, it's leveraging whatever tools and data you have available to get as close to the physical truck as you possibly can, is the best way to fight fraud. I mean, knowing who is driving the truck and having the ELD data is going to be immensely helpful in that battle. So let's talk a little bit about the integration process. What does that look like? Is the deal officially closed? And I mean, you said you're a day one employee, so you are now, the deal is closed, it's done. Walk me through what the integration plan is. How do you make sure that you keep all your people happy and excited about the future with this organization?
Yeah, so the deal is closed, and I am very excited that all of our employees have made the transition over to DAT. So again, same people, if you're a customer out there, you've still got your same account managers. We still have our awesome customer support team. Shout out Pat and Sam, holding it down for us. So really, like nothing. In some ways, it's of course not anticlimactic, but in some ways it is. It's I woke up this morning and we continued to build software and support customers and track trucks. And that really is kind of the plan for the near future. We want to, again, I mentioned that DAT was really excited about the Trucker Tools brand. Maintaining that brand and operating it as is right now was really an easy choice, I think, because we've got such great customer advocates and loyalty and brand trust in what we do. So, we're keeping that all the same. We're still going to be at all the same shows. We're going to be, with the DAT team, of course. And most of the business is still reporting directly into me. We're taking advantage of places like on the sales and account management side. How do we just make sure that the DAT team is speaking with the Trucker Tools team as much as possible to drive that growth, like I mentioned, with the DAT broker base. But I wish I had something more exciting for you, but really everything is it's kind of business as usual. And over time, we're going to find ways that, we can take advantage of this point of scale. But honestly, it's something that I'm grateful for right now, because the last couple of weeks have been really hectic, and just getting to a point now where it is like, all right, we're business as usual. We're going to keep growing this business has been a refreshing change from the chaos of getting things tied up over the last couple of weeks.
I know this is a podcast, but it's not all about excitement. I mean, I think it's a good thing that you can say nothing's changing, and that everybody's same account managers, your same account manager, your salesperson's your salesperson, the product team is staying how they are. I mean, I think that's a win. In a lot of cases, those integration processes are way more challenging, and the turnover is high, and there's still a lot more risk.
I totally agree. And that is something I'm excited about, that the DAT team saw how much how strong our team is, and they were eager to have everyone join the broader DAT business, because I'm really, one of the things I'm most personally proud of is the team we've built here. I've already mentioned a number of folks individually, but I think we've got A players. I saw you comment on one of your brother's posts, maybe, or maybe someone else's post, like it's not realistic for a business to have A players top to bottom at a certain scale, which I probably do agree with. We're not at the scale where it is possible at a business like ours to have A players top to bottom, and I think we do.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell the pride you have in your team just by, I mean, every opportunity you've had in the 28 minutes we've been talking, you've found a way to shout out individuals where you can across the various teams. And I just think that speaks to being a good leader who understands that, like, you didn't do it on your own, and there's a great group of people that got your team to where they are to have this kind of moment.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, you said it. We would not be here without the team. I could not be more proud of the work everyone's done, and really, really grateful to folks for buying into my leadership. And people spend a lot of time at work. Like it is a non-trivial amount of our time as people in the working world who have lives and families and other priorities. So I don't take it lightly that people have chosen to commit to the vision that ultimately, as the CEO, I was responsible for casting, and I'm really excited. And I really do believe in the DAT leadership team. It's been awesome to get to know them, and I'm really excited to work with them. And I think the Trucker Tools team is going to feel similarly working with that expanded leadership team in addition to me.
I think it also says a lot from the other side, from DAT's side, that they want to keep the team intact. They want to keep the brand intact. They want everybody to still report into you. That's not only an ode to your own leadership and where you've brought the team, but it's an ode to the team itself, and trying to make sure the best way to make sure you don't lose people in an acquisition like this is to change nothing, to change as little as possible to keep the right people on the bus. So, I mean, credit to you, credit to the team for, putting yourselves in this position. Let me ask you, I interviewed you, I don't know, a year ago or whenever, and we talked about your personal journey. Did you expect to be where you are right now at this point?
It wasn't even a full year ago. I think it was in February, which is crazy how much has happened since then. The freight pod has blown up and become very influential, might I add, in that time. Something I'm learning about myself, and just in the conversations with my friends or my fiance or even people at work, is that I have very high standards that I don't even think of being high standards, I think. And I run really, really fast. So I think if you've told me in February that I would be sitting here doing this on December 17th, I would have been surprised. But I'm learning that I shouldn't be, and I'm excited. I'm excited to keep up that pace of play at DAT. I think it's certainly possible, and there's some really awesome people there, and it's going to be really fun to get to work with them. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to. It's been a pretty surreal experience going through this. Because this sort of moment was always just such a hypothetical in my mind. So it's hard to even say what I thought was and wasn't possible like 10 months ago. But yeah, it's hard to say.
What kind of lessons have you learned in the few years you've now had as the CEO of this business? You came into it and it needed some change. It needed a boost to keep going, and you've certainly provided that. To the other kind of entrepreneurs out there, or people who want to one day be a CEO and start their own business, like, what have you learned?
Power of focus, first and foremost. That is, when I came into Trucker Tools 3 years ago, we were doing a lot of things, some pretty well, some okay, some it wasn't really clear where we were. It was too much. And choosing a very specific problem that we wanted to absolutely knock out of the park, which was becoming the leading visibility provider for freight brokerages and 3PLs, oriented everything else. It became so clear, how do we focus? What kind of customers do we need to be working with? Who might not be a good fit customer? That to me was the big takeaway, was focus. for kind of on the product and solving a customer problem side. I've also learned that, if you hire awesome people and give them room to run, that is the single biggest point of leverage you could ever have as a leader. It is actually I'm starting to see in a lot of ways it's great when I feel like I'm looking around like, oh, I actually don't have anything to do right now, which to be honest is not the case often. There's always stuff coming up, but or customers to talk to or anything, but empowering a team and empowering leaders and hiring people who culturally align with what you are looking for, people who are humble, hungry, smart, don't take themselves too seriously, interested in solving problems, analytical. I really do believe in the power of like multipliers in a business. That's a good book, Req. Read Multipliers if you're looking for a business book. Maybe you are this holiday season.
That was
I think
little,
that's. Yeah,
maybe you are.
Yeah. So I think power, focus, hiring strong talent and really empowering them. And then I'm going to sound so trite, but the power of relationships, especially in this industry. I think the story of the last 3 years definitely does involve the story of I came in and I remember going to my first, I went to my first trade show in early 2022, TIA in San Diego. And I was like, the new kid on the block. And I saw what so many other founders and CEOs and leaders in the industry were doing and just kind of the depth of the relationships they had with their customers and partners and and their team. And I was like, I need to do this. I need to build something like this for myself. And more than anything, I think this is something you do really well. It had to be authentic to me. It had to be, I couldn't show up and like cosplay as CEO. I had to be myself, talk about the things I care about, own who I am. And I thought that sort of authenticity would attract talent who were excited to work with me, attract, customers, and really, I thought it would just kind of help evangelize the brand. And I do think that has really worked.
So let me credit you there, because just in our journey together, which is not that extensive or deep, but like I first really got to know you when I interviewed you on the show, which you said it was in February. Before then, I barely kind of knew who you were, other than knew you were the CEO of Trucker Tools. From that point, I started paying attention. And whether it was on LinkedIn or at conferences where I saw you, it was very clear how out there you were putting yourself. And it was clear that you were developing these relationships with people. Just in conversation I was seeing you having and hearing your name come up from people who were like, oh yeah, you interviewed her, I know her, I've gotten to spend time with her with this, or saw this, her do this, whatever. You've done a really great job of that. And I appreciate you bringing that up as a point. It's just something I had noticed on my own, not realizing it was even something you were doing so intentionally. But well done.
Thank you. I don't want to make it seem like this has all been like an evil plan, but I just saw like relationships matter. And if I wanted to be involved and have a right to kind of play in this industry, I saw it was necessary. And I started playing golf, and I think that's helped.
Well, so that was something I was going to mention, but I was going to say, it wasn't something that was like, oh, she's like had this plan. It's more just like you were just being out there and being yourself and being your authentic self and sharing who you were and what you were interested in and what you cared about. And like, I just got to know a lot more about you as a result of that. And I think everybody else did. And I don't know. I just think there's power in that. I think putting yourself out there is something that people are, timid about sometimes, but you get a lot out of it. I mean, you mentioned this podcast. It's like, I never would have expected that I'd be involved in announcing acquisitions like this. And here we are. And it's just a product of showing up every week and doing an episode with people and having good conversations, getting to know people like yourself and enjoying along the way. I think you've got a natural curiosity to yourself that lends to this whole process and is something that, was not natural for me, but is something that I've almost developed as a skill that I think everybody could benefit from, and it's definitely worthwhile. So credit to you there.
Thank you.
All right. Well, listen, I think we've done a pretty good job, I think, of kind of navigating the strategy, vision, the opportunities you see for both organizations moving forward. I hope we covered as much as the audience was interested in with respect to this. If I missed something, send me a note and I'll try to get it next time on the next deal if it happens and I get asked to be a part of it. But thank you so much for letting me participate in this and for sharing more about kind of all that's happening here. And do you have any kind of parting words or thoughts you want to share with the audience?
I'm feeling really grateful right now to have, everyone talks about, oh, I didn't plan to get into freight. I didn't plan to come into brokerage. No one grew up saying that that's what they want to do. And I certainly feel the same way. I was kind of vaguely interested in transportation broadly, and the fact that I found this industry and feel so connected to it and have had the opportunity to build a business and give our team awesome opportunities professionally, economically, everything, to give our customers the ability to scale and grow their businesses is a really, I'm just feeling really grateful for those opportunities. And I'm so excited about what's to come, because I really do feel like Trucker Tools, and now as part of DAT, we're just getting started, and the next couple of years are going to be really, really fun.
Love it. Well, I'm excited to see what you can do with that business and see how you guys can continue to build on a great legacy that both companies have. So with that, we're going to call it. To all our listeners, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.